Allison here with Marijuana Politics. I have the honor to be sitting with Debbie Goldsberry of Magnolia Wellness and Dale Sky Jones of Amsterdam, both longtime advocates, loving mothers, and awesome women in the industry, bringing awareness to us all. Thank you both for agreeing to sit here and talk with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Funny story, right before speaking with you guys today, sitting at the Marijuana Politics booth, someone comes up to me and says, not to be stereotypical, but I'm assuming you're not the boss.
Oh, what?
Kind of sounds like, not to be racist, but...
Right. Or
Disclaimer.
sexist,
But...
insert insult here.
Right. So I wanted to talk with you guys today about the intersection of gender and race and where you see that overlay, because I know after your panel that seemed to be a hot topic, a big question. So can you speak a little bit about that?
Well, I think it's extremely important that as we go forward with regulating new laws, that we're actually doing so in a way that allows for not just opportunity for a job, but opportunity for that leadership that you mentioned, that you can actually go out, attract the finances needed, get all the way through the regulatory process and actually own the business. And it's important that we create low barriers for entry for both women and minorities, because traditionally you have to go find venture capital in the hundreds of thousands or more. It's usually reserved for white men. And so the way we write these laws will specifically determine the opportunity and the extent of the opportunity for women and minorities. And I think to a large degree, they're kind of in the same boat. So we should start paddling together. And in some cases, it is the same boat.
In some cases, it certainly is. Right. Debbie, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, this morning, for example, I saw Judge Jim Gray, and I'm on the board of directors with him at CBDS, Cannabis Sativa Inc., and I attended one of my first board meetings. There's 2 women on the board, it's mostly men, and I sat politely with my hand up for so long at the board meeting, and nobody called on me, and I was getting more and more frustrated, and when I got finally called on, I made it a point, and this is what I want to tell people, you got to stick up, because I said, are you kidding me that I'm one of the only women in the room and I'm there with my hand politely up and you don't call on me? That's actually not okay. So the very first thing Judge Gray said to me today, Debbie, oh yes, Debbie, yeah, I'm a little scared, afraid of you. Yeah, you know what? Because I'm going to stand up and I'm going to have my hand up and I'm going to expect to be called on and my voice is going to be heard because it's important. So I think some of what we need to do is help people be assertive.
Help people find that voice. Yeah. Help people feel comfortable voicing that, feeling like the token in the room, because we are all our own bosses.
Indeed.
Awesome. The other thing I wanted to ask about is what sort of outreach you're doing in terms of education. I know since you're with Amsterdam, that's the only school I can think of that is active in the cannabis and teaching people about cannabis law, cannabis culture, cannabis everything. And so what do you see for places like Oregon that don't have something like Amsterdam? What kind of outreach do you see happening?
Well, after that panel, it sounds like I need to come to Oregon. We had some really, truly amazing support from the audience to say, yeah, come here, we're ready for you. And because it's so important to us to work with the locals wherever we go, that what we have is a really great framework, but it can only be filled with the people that are there, that understand not just the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law, because they are living the law. And so making sure that we can find the best instructors from Oregon to teach Oregonians is the first step. And that always takes longer than you want, but it sounds like that's really important for us to do. In the larger picture, we're looking to educate in, an overlooked now, because of all these business conferences that are happening, we're actually throwing a medical conference in Florida, October 2nd and 3rd, to train the doctors. West of the Mississippi, we're having legalization conversations. East of the Mississippi, the doctors are the barrier. If nobody is recommending cannabis, nobody has access to cannabis. And so remembering our roots to go back and say, you still need to get medical and understand continuing medical education for nurses and for doctors, and just realizing that it's going to take doctors to train doctors. And right now, they're not teaching it in medical school. And so I'm really excited to actually take a step back into medical to make sure that everyone else can catch up.
Right. And that's something I hope to see, not just in medical, but in education, bringing these sorts of conversations into public schools, bringing these conversations into college campuses. Because, I mean, we talk about race and social justice, the war on drugs, why aren't we talking about cannabis as well? Because there's that intersection. Debbie, can you talk about that intersection in college and in medicine?
I couldn't quite hear the question. I'm so sorry. It was so loud.
That's okay. I'm talking about education and how we deal with cannabis, talking about the war on drugs and the overlay of the war on drugs and cannabis conversations and why that's absent in fields of medicine and on college campuses.
Well, I mean, let's just start with all teachers. Can you imagine being a teacher speaking up against the harms on the war on drugs? A kindergarten teacher maybe supporting legalization, or a second grade teacher teaching people about the history of how we're locking people up for nothing more than a plant that it can actually cure shrink tumors or cure seizures. It's insane. So I think it starts right with our educators. If the educators are too fearful to step up and to speak about it, how are our children ever going to get educated? And that's why you see people like Dale working at Oaksterdam University. We actually have to create our own educational mechanism to get the word out to people. Now, luckily, there's a few college professors who are amazing. There's classes on this at Santa Cruz. You can take a whole class on learning about drugs and society, the history of prohibition, and more I think it's going to become popular that people learn the history of this. For me, we need to teach the history, just like we need to teach the history of any genocide, of any thing that locks up millions of Americans every year, 800,000 people going to jail for cannabis every year for years and years and years, ever since the 70s. It's an absolute outrage. If we don't teach that prohibition has done this to our own people, people might actually forget how harmful prohibition is. So we have to get the word out. Now, look, I think we can use the tool of social media. I have a daughter. She tells me Facebook is only for old people, but I know there's a lot of people on Facebook who are older who need this information. As a parent, I'm at home a lot. I'm in front of my computer. I can do a ton as one person and one individual. I can have a very big voice by using the power of technology to get the word out to people.
I appreciate it, and I think it takes people like you giving us the confidence to no longer be fearful to have these discussions, because that's been a big part of it, is not feeling like we can have these conversations openly, publicly, and with other people. So thank you both for being here. Is there a way that people can get in touch with you? Anything you want to leave off with?
You can find the collective Magnolia Wellness at www.magnoliaoakland.org, and I'm on social media across all platforms, Debbie Goldsberry.
Debbie.
And I would just suggest that anyone that wants to learn more go to oaksterdam.com and figure out how they can start to change the world that they live in, because all politics are local, and never doubt a small group of committed citizens can indeed change the world. It is the only thing that ever has. Thank you.
Thank you both for being here. This is Allison again of Marijuana Politics. Thank you.